Okay, let's do a review on the 1992 World Champion Toronto Blue Jays, the first of their back-to-back championship teams. Let's get started, as always, with the offense, and we look at the 1-2 hitters in the lineup. This lineup was pretty much set in stone every day, so offense is going to go pretty quick here. Let me get started showing you the numbers for White and Alomar as they were consistently 1-2 in the lineup. You see their on base numbers right there. White's numbers are a little bit low, but really the centerpiece of this offense is Roberto Alomar. You see absolutely terrific numbers, and I'm also going to go ahead and give you his runner advance hits. You're really solid in the two hole with Roberto Alomar. Now, let me break up the middle of the order here. Let me show you the numbers for. First, I'll show you the numbers for Joe Carter and Dave Winfield. They were set in stone as the number 3 and number 4 hitters against both lefties and righties. Numbers check out pretty good. Winfield's numbers, just like every player, his numbers can go up depending on ballpark effect, hits, and home runs. And the one thing about this Toronto Blue Jay team, they do play really well to their home park because the ballpark effect split for home runs for right-handed hitters in Toronto on a D20 is a 1 through 15. So definitely a lot of right-handed power right there at 3 and 4, and then I'll show you Maldonado's numbers later. Now I'm going to show you the numbers for John Olerud. I'm going to show you all of his numbers because Olerud's game is really more based on, getting on base than it is really driving runners. And you could see his hits with multiple base advancement. Those numbers are a little bit low, but you do get excellent on base numbers out of him. I'm going to finish up the offense by showing you the runner advance hits for Maldonado and Gruber. You see, those are pretty solid numbers. Those are pretty decent numbers for guys who were consistently hitting sixth and seventh in the lineup. Now, this lineup is a little bit tilted towards the right handed side of the plate. I would like this offense a little bit more if they had just one more or a lefty hitter in the lineup, a power hitter. But overall, this offense to me just lands on a overall score of a 3.5 out of 5 because nothing in this lineup really pops out at you. Nobody really has like one of those eye-popping cards. The best card in this lineup, I would definitely say, is Roberto Alomar. And the middle of the order, you can produce a decent amount of runs with this team, especially against left-handed pitching. Joe Carter just eats left-handed pitching alive. But the offense, to me, I think would round out a little better if they had just another lefty bat to kind of even things out a little bit. So overall, I mean, it's a good offense. I mean, 3.5 out of 5 is a good score, but I can't have or say that this offense is what you would call a very good offense. And obviously, that would be a score of a 4 or higher. So that's my grade on the Toronto Blue Jays 1992 Strat-O-Matic team offense. Now let's take a look at the defense real quick. First, let's start up the middle with second base and shortstop, like we always do. Very easy call here for me. That gets a perfect 5 out of 5 score. You've got no complaints there with Roberto Alomar and Manuel Lee. You just don't get a better combination than this in Stratomatic, especially with the E ratings. It's just absolutely terrific numbers. The outfield defense, you do run into a little bit of a problem. You see the defense right there, left to right, Maldonado, White and Carter. The outfield defense, I had to only give them a 3 out of 5 because I'm not crazy about the threes in the corner outfield. The E ratings on the Toronto Blue Jays, this is a number that actually checked out pretty well for me. Um, Staying in the outfield, yes, you do have the two threes in the corner outfield spots, which I'm not particularly crazy about. And Joe Carter's E rating is an E11. So anytime you get into the double digits in the outfield, that starts to worry me a little bit. But at least you're solid with the E ratings in center field and right field. So I landed on an E rating score for the Blue Jays outfield as a 3.5. It is definitely above average. The E11 for Joe Carter is not necessarily going to kill you, but I'm not crazy about that score. You look at the E ratings in the corner infield with Gruber and Olerud, I would say both of those numbers are just right at the level of where you really don't want to go any higher. So once again, I landed on a 3.5 out of 5 score for the corner infield E ratings because I would definitely say that they are above average to coming out to a good score, a decent score of a 3.5 out of 5. So the Toronto Blue Jays overall E rating grades out at a 4 out of 5, which basically puts them as a very good defensive team, as well it should be, because they are excellent at second base, shortstop, very good in center field. You've got ones and twos at third base and first base. And as I spoke on with the E ratings with Gruber and Olerud, both of them are pretty much right at the level of where you don't want to go any higher with their E ratings. So those E ratings check out above average. So you can see so far so good for the 1992 Blue Jays. Offense is at a 3.5 out of 5. Defense scores a 4 out of 5. Now let's take a look at the starting rotation. The Strat-O-Matic book has David Cohn listed as the number one guy, even though he did only have 7 starts for the Blue Jays. But as I sat down and looked at the overall rotation, it really didn't impact the score either way. If you look at either David Cohn being the ace or Jack Morris being the ace and put David Cohn into the starting rotation depth score. But for what it's worth, let me show you the numbers for all 4 starters: David Cohn, Jack Morris, Juan Guzman, and Jimmy Key. You could see all of their on base chance numbers check out pretty well, especially Jimmy Key's numbers. Jimmy Key was always a guy who would have pretty stingy Strat-O-Matic cards. Guzman that year, very solid card. Both Cohn and Morris, especially David Cohn, he has a little bit of a string of walks there where you really don't like to see them. You see his number versus left-handed batters, 10 out of 33 chance if you roll his card of reaching base. So if I was to look at the 92 Blue Jays starting rotation as a whole, they grade out at a very good score of a 4 out of 5. And really what drove that score was the starting rotation depth. I gave David Cohn a score of a 3.5 out of 5, but I gave the starting rotation depth a score of a 4.5 out of 5 because you are really, really solid with your 2, 3, 4 guys if you go with Morris 2, Guzman 3, and Jimmy Key number 4. It is really one of the better starting rotation depth scores that I've come across since doing these videos. So you're very solid in the starting rotation with the 92 Blue Jays. So they score a 4 out of 5. Now let's go through the bullpen for Toronto. Let's start with the closer, Tom Henke. You see his numbers right there. What I'm not crazy about Tom Henke's card here is you have a little bit of power opportunities when he faces right-handed batters, so I'm not crazy about that. Now let's take a look at the bullpen depth. Let me show you the numbers for Dwayne Ward, Mike Timlin, Mark Eichhorn, and Bob McDonald. You see all of their numbers right there. One thing about Dwayne Ward is very solid on base chance numbers on the surface, but kind of similar to Tom Henke, Dwayne Ward has some power opportunities on his card. However, they are against left-handed batters. Tom Henke's issue is with right-handed batters. Timlin's numbers check out just okay. Not great, but he's also not necessarily going to kill you. And then as I looked at Eichhorn and McDonald, these are really very interesting options out of your bullpen. And this is really something that you're going to see is really going to drive their score. I really like it when I have a couple of guys deep in your bullpen that you could use in mix and matching situations. You see Eichhorn's numbers versus right-handed batters, and you see Bob McDonald's numbers against left-handed hitters. Now, both of them are pretty much one-trick ponies because Eichhorn is not a guy you want to see facing lefties, and McDonald is not a guy you want to throw out there against a right-handed batter. But those options are really nice to have, especially if you're sitting in a pretty high scoring wild game in the middle innings and you just need to just stabilize the game before you get the ball to your setup guy and then he hands the ball off to your closer. Those are really nice options to have out of your bullpen, and those are options that can really swing a game in your favor if you're playing with this team. So as I look at the bullpen as a whole, I settled on a score of a 4 out of 5 for the ace, Tom Hankey. Um, but I gave the bullpen depth score a perfect score of a 5 out of 5. And I landed on that score because I kind of said to myself, I was like, okay, well, Dwayne Ward has a well above average card. He has a good card. It's a hittable card, but it's still a good card. And then you look at specialists like Eichhorn and McDonald, that just adds extra depth to your bullpen. Again, it just has to be managed properly. Like I said, McDonald's not a guy who you want to come in and throw 2 innings, um, because if he runs into some right-handed hitters, if you roll his card, there's a very good chance you're going to give up some hits. But again, if you just manage this bullpen properly, it is a very, very deep bullpen to where you could very easily get 4 or 5 innings out of the bullpen and get the win if necessary. So have the Blue Jays bullpen grade out at a very, very good score of a 4.5 out of 5. So as we peel everything back and we look at the 1992 Blue Jays as a whole, you're going to see that they score a very, very solid score of a 4 out of 5. And it was a 4 on the nose as they scored 3.5 out of 5 on offense, 4 out of 5 defense, 4 out of 5 starting pitching, and 4.5 out of 5 in the bullpen. It's a very good team. Obviously, the strengths on this team is your defense is very good, your starting pitching is very good, and the bullpen, so long as it's managed properly, getting the ball to the late inning guys is very, very good. The offense, I would just say, is above average. It's a good offense, but again, it's not an offense where when you look at the cards, you kind of say, oh, wow, this guy's amazing. It doesn't really have that guy in the middle of the order, but it's a good enough offense. You could score some runs with that offense. So that's my grade on the 1992 World Series champion Toronto Blue Jays. They score a 4 out of 5. Excellent score out of them. I thank you all for watching, and my next video will be on the 1997 World Series champion Florida Marlins. Have a good day, everyone.